Might not be your cup of tea, but if it is, drink up. Howdy gamers, welcome to my first book video. This has been a long time coming. I am actually so excited right now. Long story short, I am moving in just a few days, and as you can see, I've yet to pack that. So today I thought it would be fun to kind of give a little bookshelf tour, as well as talk about my TBR list, book recommendations I may have. I also want to update my Goodreads. I haven't rated any of these books on Goodreads, and I thought it would be fun to like kind of have a recap of that. So by the end of the video, if you want to check out my Goodreads, I will have that username for you. I made me a little London fog. Without further ado, let's begin. I'm gonna start with books that aren't on my bookshelf and that have just been sitting on my floor. The first book is Mosquitoland by David Arnold. This book holds a very special place in my heart. I read it whenever I was a senior in high school. I remember it being really good. I want to reread all my favorite books from high school. I was planning on making that video soon. Mosquitoland, solid. I really liked this one whenever I was 17, so who knows if I like it now. Back then, I think I would have said this is like one of my favorite books ever. Call Me By Your Name. This is on my TBR. I also want to do a video on it. I was thinking about doing like a reading vlog and then watching the movie afterwards. I think that could be kind of fun. All the Right Places. This one was also one of my favorite books in high school. Such a beautiful story. I really love this book. The movie did it wrong. That's all I gotta say. The movie did it super wrong. Also, my dog ate the back. Oh my god, I don't remember this being so dense. It's called It's Kind of a Funny Story. This one, I remember it was really good. I didn't read it fast enough. This book, it takes place over a course of 5 days, but I read it over the span of like 3 months and it just didn't hit the same. So I want to read this consecutively and finish this quickly and then give my rating, but it was a really good book. I love this. These next 2 books are actually books I stole from my high school library. Even though we didn't have a library, we had like this thing called the Union, and it was basically a bunch of tables surrounded by a tiny little bookshelf we stole the night before Christmas. This is on my bookshelf and I do hold this dear to my heart. This is also a book from my Union. That sounds really weird. It's called 100 Demons. It's actually kind of cool. I have not read this, but the graphics are like really sick. And then I have Ghost World. This was gifted to me probably whenever I was like 15 years old. I read it and I really fucking loved it. It left an impact on me. I recommend if you haven't read this, go for it. It's like a comic book. Super fast and cute read. Last book that was not on my actual bookshelf, Monster Park by David, Paul, and Keely Logan. I don't even know if my dad still sells them. Whenever I was a kid, my uncle and my dad wrote a children's book. Very cute. I don't know if you can see it, but this little picture right here, I drew that. And then my dad based this entire end scene on it. It's just like actually so precious. Also, I do want to mention, I am just like kind of starting to get back into reading and like getting into reading seriously. Without further ado, here's my bookshelf. I have this hefty little book called Just Kids by Patti Smith. My uncle gave this to me for my 18th birthday. Genuinely one of the best books ever. If you're wanting to start reading nonfiction or getting into Patti Smith, read this book. Like, it was really good. Next book is China Room. I have yet to read this, and I think it's because I read that it's kind of like very calming and serene. Just don't think I'm in the mood to like read a serene book right now, if that makes sense. But this is on my TBR. This is another Patti Smith book that my uncle gave to me. It's called M Train. I really like this one as well. Patti Smith is like actually so cool. Like, you know, with some people you're like, damn, I am so grateful that I'm living at the same time as you. That's how I feel about Patti Smith. Where I End and You Begin. Literally, I've tried to read this 3 times. I genuinely can't get more than like 50 pages into this book. And I don't think it's the book's fault. I just haven't been in the mood to read it. I don't even really know what it's about, but I do want to finish this eventually. Next, oh god, if you know me, Dear Evan Hansen is like kind of near and dear to my heart. I saw the musical in New York whenever I was 16 and it really fucking left an impact on me. I've never read the book. I don't even know where I got this. Maybe I got it from Broadway. It's difficult because I saw the musical, I saw the movie. Let's not talk about it, please. So it's like I know the story so well that it's like, do I really want to read it? But I do. Next, I have Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I have some controversial opinions on this. I genuinely did not like this book. I know Sally Rooney is is like really hit or miss. I just feel like the story was told in such a bland way. It's kind of emotionless, but it's like a good story. You win some, you lose some, I guess. I would probably rate this 2 stars. That would make it probably my least favorite book I've read, maybe ever. Oh my god. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This book equally put me on a slump as it did take me out of one. I would probably give this a 3.5 stars. It was hard for me to get into. The last 100 pages literally brought me to tears. Cue a picture of me sobbing. Like, I was torn apart at the ending and then stitched back together. The ending makes this book worth it. If you're thinking about reading this book, I say go for it. I don't think it would be a complete waste of your time, and I think a lot of people like it. It was good. It was just okay. Next book is called Some Kind of Happiness, and an old friend gave this to me. I started reading it last year and I DNF'd it, but I'm going to finish it. Okay, my bookshelf is now a mess. This next book is the Celestine Prophecy. Hopefully I'm saying that right. This is another book I've read some of but not finished. My mom and my dad really were pushing for me to read this. It was very important to them. Whenever I was 15, my dad gave this to me. I still haven't read it, and I think it's because I kind of felt pressured to read it, you know what I mean? But he was literally like, I will pay you to read this book, so I probably should read it. Next book is Beach Read, and this is a book that actually got me into reading in like my adult years. I really liked it. Fun fact though, I can barely remember it. Genuinely, I don't know. I mean, I remember some of the plot line, but like the characters' names. What was her name? Fuck, I have no idea. I really like this book. Literally tore me to shreds at the end. I think I rated it like 5 out of 5, but I would probably say like 4.5 right now. Next, we have Tobacco Wives. And I started reading a little bit of this, but then I DNF'd it because I wanted to read Normal People. This is a book that I had early access to, not for any reason other than the fact that I work at a Barnes & Noble. I thought it was pretty good. I do want to pick it up again and finish it, and I like the writing in this a lot. Next, we have Darius the Great. Next we have Darius the Great Is Not Okay. I read this like exactly a year ago and I really fucking love this book. I will say though, it's less plot driven and more character driven, and like if you're the oldest sibling and you have trauma from that, it tells a really cute story about family and like finding yourself and exploring your culture. I'm pretty sure the main character and his best friend are gay. I think that's like actually written into the sequel of this novel. Little gay family book. I think I would rate this like a 4.5. I really like this. Actually, I haven't read this book, but my uncle gave it to me so long ago. From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankenwheeler. I probably butchered that. I don't know why I never read it. Thank you, Paul. I love you. Speaking of my beloved Uncle Paul, he also wrote Goodbye Horses. He also has another book called Hallelujah, and I've yet to read that, but I really want to. Super biased because it's my uncle, but his writing style is just like you're talking to him. It's so nice. This is The Big Friendly Giant. Also got whenever I was really young. Book and the movie is like really important to me, so love this. They both die at the end. I bought this last year, have yet to read it. I did hear some not so great things about it. I'm like kind of dreading it now, but I also kind of just want to get it over with. TBR. Next, I have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. It talks about racism in a way that like talks about both the extremes of racism. Really fucking adored that perspective. Besides that, like the story is really good. This is written in third person and I do prefer first person books. Like I didn't even notice it was written in third person until I was like halfway through, because the way the paragraphs are, it's like you kind of get dual points of views, but it's all written in third person, which is something like I feel like only a skilled writer can do. And I think this was Kylie Reid's first novel and she did really fucking good. I have a hard time rating things 5 out of 5 just because like how do I know that's the absolute best, you know what I mean? This next book is Everything Everything. It's a YA book, so if you're into that, it's really cute and there's kind of a big plot twist in it that I wasn't expecting and I thought really fucking added to the story. You should read this. Actually, you should read this. Might not be your cup of tea, but if it is, drink up. Wow, that was inspirational. This is a book I got from Half Price Books in like 2020 called Where Two Worlds Touch, and it's basically a non-fiction book about like spirituality. I've read bit by bit, but I have not finished it. Non-fiction's not my jam unless it's Patti Smith. Like this is kind of hard for me to get through, but I will say it's very insightful. I underlined so much stuff in here. I want to finish reading it at some point in my life. Okay, we're down to the almost home stretch. We still have some books back here that were hidden. This book is The City We Became. As you can tell from my previously read books, I'm not a gigantic fantasy person. In fact, I've never read a fantasy book, besides like Harry Potter. Basically, whenever I picked this up, I didn't know it was fantasy because it was misplaced in the LGBTQ plus section. So I was like, oh my god, gay book in New York. Yes, but no. But I did read some more about this, just like kind of get in the mood to read a fantasy book, and it sounds actually interesting. I'm gonna try. The next book is The Smash Up by Ali Benjamin. Basically, this was like a spin-off of, I think it was called From. I think people read it in like English class in high school. I didn't. And whenever I picked up this book, truthfully, I didn't really know what it was about. I think I would give it like a 3.5 stars, maybe 4. Oh, fuck. So indecisive with this shit. Kind of put me in a slump, but also the ending was cute. I think you should read it for yourself. It's literary fiction about like activism and women's rights, and it does involve a kid, which I liked, not in a weird way. Next is The Perfect Girl. I literally got this in 2019. I sat at a park and read it, and then it was too cold, so I went home. I never picked it back up again. I think I do want to finish it though. I just wasn't in my reading era. I wasn't prepared for what that would mean. So I DNF'd this, but I do want to pick it back up. Really Professional Internet Person by Jen McAllister. I was in middle school whenever I asked for this, as well as A Work in Progress by Connor Franta. I wanted to get into reading, and I thought the best way to do that would, it's so dusty, that says enough, would be to read books by people that I liked on YouTube. I never really finished these. I don't know if I ever will, and I feel kind of guilty, but also like, what can you expect? I was 13. So this one is kind of interesting. I checked out this book in the library in 8th grade called A Corner of the Universe. I want to reread it so bad. I remember absolutely loving it. I can't even honestly rate it right now. Okay, this book is called White Fragility. I got this for Christmas in 2020. The world was kind of going to shit. I wanted to get more educated on racism. I did not finish this book, but I want to. This is a poetry book called The Same Sky. Can you guess where I got it? Probably not actually, because I talked about that a while ago. I got it from my high school union. Some of the poems were actually really good. I haven't read all of it though, so I guess I'll put it in my to be read. Okay, this is the second to last book because I just remember I have a book in my bag that I just finished and I genuinely can't wait to talk about. Second to last book is called This Is Where It Ends. Now this was a very heavy book. Something happened whenever I picked up this book. I finally got the motivation to read it and I took it to school, and then that day there was a school shooting in a city that's very close to my sibling's city. It kind of freaked me out a lot because this is a book about school shootings. It's just the day that I was inclined to read it, it happened so close to me. And I know this is like super heavy and nobody asked for this. I felt like I had to read it at this point, like it was kind of a sign to read it. Like, it was a very well written book though, really good, but in the worst ways. So I think I'd rate this 4 out of 5 stars. That's all I gotta say about it. Last book of the night is the book I just finished, and I think this might be my favorite book, maybe ever. This is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I didn't know what I loved in a book until I read this. It wasn't so much plot focused as it was character focused. Like, there was still a really strong plot. This book maybe changed my life. Absolutely love this. I think I underlined this book and wrote little notes on it more than I have all of these books combined. This book might be one of my favorites ever, and for that I think I'm gonna rate it a 5-star. The characters were like tied together so many ways. It just kind of reminded me that like we're all in this together. Read this book. Oh my god, there's a tag in my little bookshelf. That's my bookshelf, besties. Thanks for joining me on this journey. And I hope you enjoyed this first book video of mine. Like I said, I do want to do some like reading vlogs with the high school series, and also Call Me By Your Name. Stay tuned for that if you like these videos. I'm sure I'll do more. Check out my thingy. My profile name's just Keely Logan, so maybe you can find me, maybe you can't. Who knows? That being said, I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for watching. Toodaloo. Oh god.